It's your professionalism that I respect.
I'm thinking that the real podcast should be what we talk about right before the podcast starts.
No, you don't. You guys don't want to hear that. You guys trust me.
I think that we could call it "How to Founder After Hours" or before.
No, you guys don't want to hear what we were just talking about.
I don't know. There's some
thank me now for me saying we're not going to talk about it.
I don't know why you were so uncomfortable with vaginal breathing.
You didn't just say that.
I went to 3.
I was so trying to avoid those words coming out of anybody's mouth.
Why are you so uncomfortable with that concept, Anthony? I don't understand. Yeah.
There's so many wrong things about what you just said on a family-friendly podcast.
I don't know what. So don't have a dad joke, but I have a story for you guys. But somebody else want to kick off? You want me to kick off?
What's Forrest Gump's password?
What's Forrest Gump's password? I don't know, Anthony. What's Forrest Gump's password?
1 Forrest 1.
My daughter and I drove down to Seattle and Portland last weekend for a bunch of concerts. We went to the Capitol Hill Block Party in Seattle and saw a couple of her favorite bands, and then we drove down to Portland to see LCD Sound System. And somebody hit me in the crowd, like while the music was playing. Do you know what happens when you get slapped at like high frequencies?
No, what happens?
It mega hurts.
Emotional, damn it.
I'm glad to hear the quality of your jokes. I have a story for you guys. So, walked out into my backyard, looked out at my fence. There's my neighbor, Bob. And Bob's over there doing yard work. I said, Bob, what are you doing? Bob said, I'm doing yard work. So why are you doing yard work, Bob? What's going on? What do you got going on? He goes, well, I'm trimming my hedges. I go, Bob, why are you trimming your hedges? Your hedges look just fine. They're fine looking hedges, Bob. Why are you trimming your hedges? And he goes, I just want my hedges to look good, Chris. Why are you worried so much about my hedges? I said, okay, Bob, good luck. I know why Bob was actually trimming his hedges, though. Trying to make his deck look bigger.
Is this related to the conversation we were having just before we went live?
He's trimming his hedges to make his deck look bigger. Trying to make his deck look bigger than my deck. Bob's always competing with me about our deck size.
Is this why you're bald?
What if the longest week that you have proves the plan is failing, not that you're leading? Natalie Nagale led Wild Bit to adopt a 32-hour, 4-day work week while building and scaling products like Postmark and Beanstalk. Rather than spending shorter hours as a perk, she viewed sustainable pace and deep focus as a core risk management tool. By capping work hours, the team was forced to aggressively prioritize meaningful work, eliminate low-value meetings, and maintain high cognitive clarity, directly resulting in higher productivity, quality, fewer system bugs, and long-term team retention. Today on How to Founder, we're going to be talking about all the things that have been taboo so far on this episode, including deck size and
I wish there was actually a taboo list for this podcast, but
we're working harder versus recovering smarter. I am your host, Chris Franks. It's with us again, the three of us, Anthony Franco, Stephanie Hayes. Welcome. Good to see you, Anthony. You've been busy, Anthony. Tell us about your life. What's going on?
A little bit. I started I got a job.
Wow.
I went and got a job. Actually, a company came out and recruited me to be their CAIO, and it was I'm loving it. I'm loving every minute of it. It's weird to have a job. It's weird to have a boss, but actually kind of liking it. But it's keeping me really busy.
Well, I mean, it's a good topic for today. Stephanie, tell me about a time in your life where you were so busy that suddenly you had one of those alcoholic moments of clarity where you realize, like, wait, this busyness is because something is not working. There is not broken in the system.
You want just one time? As
Give me
somebody
the
who grew up
numbers.
in the
Just
someone who grew up in the .com days and in the small business tech startup world, it's pervasive. But yeah, it's a great topic, because anybody who is in that founder state, there's at least in the past always been this sort of like cultural this cultural sort of custom in our world that you have to be working 24/7. Literally in the .com boom, we just lived at the office. I'm not even exaggerating. It was 7 days a week. We were expected to be in, and we would start early in the morning. We go to late at night, and oftentimes I would just sleep at the office because I lived far enough away that it was actually hard to commute. And at the time, it felt like we were really doing something, right? But man, you get to the point where you're starting to screw everything up, and you can't, plus you're drinking and everything. So like that, it really sort of.
Long days and alcohol don't mix really well, though.
No.
Maybe that's a problem.
And I don't know if it's just harder drugs. Really, that's the real key.
That was my mistake back then. I didn't do the harder drugs.
Picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue.
I don't know if it's getting older or if the whole thing has shifted now, but it's almost gone to the other direction now, where it's sort of goofy to try and push yourself that much. And it's one thing if you have a deadline, but it's another thing to just build that culture, right? And it's not healthy. It's not
Anthony, same question. A time in your life when you had a moment of clarity and realized that you were working incredibly hard, incredibly stressed, but that was a symbol of something deeper, which was there was a system that was broken in your business.
Trying to remember a time where I had a moment of clarity. Let's just start there.
I was going to say, I feel like that's just your life, Anthony. It's just who you are.
I have a little bit of a different take on this, at least for myself, how I think about it. I have become very comfortable in the fact that my life and my work-life balance is cyclical. And I will have very manic weeks and months where I'm just nonstop working from the moment I wake up till the moment I go to bed. And then something tells me I need to slow down. And I'll have a week where I just kind of walk away mentally from everything. And I've just kind of become, it's a rhythm that I've gotten into where I allow myself those incredibly hard weeks, knowing that there is a point at which I'm not going to be able to do anymore, and I just need to walk away. So trying to think of a circumstance where I didn't listen to that, like walk away, and I literally just can't go anymore. So it's not like I hear something and I'm like, oh, I need to take a break. Usually I'll become a little bit more grumpy with my wife and my family and my kids. That's an indication, but there is a point at which I can't go anymore, and I have to just take a beat and walk away. So I don't know if it's a conscious effort or if it's just how my biology works.
Well, let's call that the unhealthy way to approach this entire thing, which is basically just working yourself to the point where you're exhausted. Your body and mind just shuts down, I think, is probably what you are. Here's my question though, based on what you
Is
said.
is that wait? Is that really unhealthy, or is that?
Is that normal? Is that just a normal circumstance?
Oh, who gives? Like, yeah, I am definitely not normal.
Well, I mean, I know that to be true.
That's not my aspiration, though.
The question is like, I think that there's not a ton of research, at least that I've found on this stuff, which is there is periods and cycles where you're incredibly productive and motivated, and there are periods and cycles in your life where you're not. And people like Brad Feld have written about this a lot, which is he'll try to ride those cycles where he'll work 2 months and take a full month off. Now, he's a wildly successful billionaire investor, so he can do those things. But there are these kind of tempos of your life. I think that that's relatively normal, but I think founders, we always take things to the highest level of kind of those tempos. Stephanie, agree with that sentiment? Is that cycle kind of a normal thing?
I mean, what's normal, right? But does it occur pretty regularly? Yes. Should it? I mean, no,
I don't think should enter the equation. I don't think should is right. Like,
I'm feeling like we should just interview like a normal like accountant. Be like, what is your life really like? Like, do you really,
Yeah, but it depends on what your aspirations are, where what you feel your purpose is, right? I mean, if you want to be an Olympic athlete, not that I'm comparing entrepreneurship and us to Olympic athletes, but similar thing. If you want to be an Olympic athlete, should you be working yourself so hard?
Well, but that's
how would you say it's not? How would you say that that's not what they should be doing?
But that's actually not a great example, because Olympic athletes know that like burning yourself out and training so hard that you lose performance, right?
Yeah,
so
but there's also a point that so they listen to their body's tempo, right? They are very in tune with the amount that they can push themselves. How is this different?
Have I mentioned to you guys lately that I'm a 6-time Ironman? Have I said that I've done 6 Ironmans lately?
Yeah, every podcast, Chris. Every podcast. We get it. You are like Forrest Gump. You like to run. We understand.
No, but here's the thing that's interesting about that is there's a very well understood thing when you're training for very big events. It's called periodization, which is you build, and then rest. And you build, and then rest. And you build, and rest. And so if you're trying to go typically Ironman training is about 6-7 months, something like that. And you don't just try to build up to the thing because you will burn out. You have to go through these rest cycles as well. Interesting. So I'm going to tell you my story and then ask you guys to reflect on it, which is there was a moment when I was doing Clever Funnel and I had burned myself out to the point where, again, burnout is now a defined term. We now know what it is. It's a not as productive period of time working the same amount of hours. So diminishing returns on the hours that you work. I was burned out. I was stressed out, and I was taking everything on. And we had this conversation a long time ago, Anthony. This is when my friend Hart came in and did EOS implementation. And we did the work of accountability charting, and I was accountable for everything. And my team was frustrated that I was not handing things over. And I was frustrated that they weren't taking things. It was just a very simple item of me being so in the weeds that I couldn't even delegate. That mere exercise helped me a ton. The system was broken. I was taking on too much stuff. I was taking on too much responsibility. And that moment of me just continuing to work harder narrowed it so I couldn't back up and see the system anymore. Is that a typical thing that happens to founders and entrepreneurs? Because I've seen that in my life multiple times. I've seen it in other founders' lives. Have you seen something similar where the system they're building becomes the cage that makes them unhappy? Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, is the system the cage? I think the system evolves. I think it's, if it's if it's feeling like a cage, then you're working against something. So what are you working against? Are you working against a narrative that you believe that you should be doing something differently, or are you working against something that naturally, like Anthony described, being in these sort of sprint cycles, right? Which is pretty normal and happens. And so he'll go through these sprint cycles. And if your system works against the way you naturally work, then maybe you need to adjust the system, but you've got to figure out what the system is there for. Like, is it to provide sanity? Is it to ensure we're doing good quality work? Is it to, like, what's the system for? And if it's not doing that, then obviously you need to readjust it. But I think the bigger question to ask is, why is it there, and why does it feel like friction? And
Anthony, this is a perfect time for me to ask you this question, because you're now starting a job, which is, your natural work cadence has been, sort of up, down, manic, more
Will that work? Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is if, like, now I'm forcing you into a 40-hour work week, right? And we're forcing you to do that, or even I'm saying, hey, look, like in the story that we led with, hey, we're going to do 4 days a week versus 5. Almost, I kind of feel like it's one of the reasons why founders are founders is that we don't like to conform to kind of the standards of business. But now that you're making this move into a place where you have to collaborate with a group of people that are now working a set amount of hours, how is that working, and how are you going to have to adjust your style to fit into that environment?
Well, I'll answer that, but I do want to touch on the question that you asked about you getting burned out because you weren't able to delegate, and I do want to acknowledge that we all think that delegation and being able to get out of the weeds is, we've all been hearing that and reading that, but at the same point, when you look at the highly successful founders, the next level, the next tier, they're in the weeds. They struggle with delegation. They struggle with just looking at strategy and not tactics.
Let's go back to that, because I think it's a really good point. And so let's circle back to that point. But answer one of the question about the 40 hours, and then I'll come back to that question.
Yeah. So I'm not changing how I work. I'm not going to change how I work and how I iterate and the hours that I put in. I'm treating this as an entrepreneurial effort. It's one of the things that attracted me to the gig, is that we're at a time of disruption, and the owner of the company wants me to help disrupt. So there's really no cadence difference. There is a broader ecosystem of history and teams that I'm working with. And I'm really enjoying that piece of it, because everybody seems aligned with the disruption that needs to happen and kind of excited to see where it takes us. So I know I'm going to hit some things that are going to be sideways. I just haven't hit them yet. So I don't know what to predict.
Stephanie, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question before we return to Anthony's point, which is, if Anthony and I do the same thing, and probably you do the same thing, which is we work, we get ourselves burned out, but then we just rest, right? And rest might be, we come into the office, but we listen to a podcast or something like that, right? We do something to kind of, like what Stephen Covey said, sharpen the saw.
I watch Real Housewives.
I'm on Hoof Talk.
No, I don't.
Oh my God. You guys are... okay.
In an emergency, if I needed to carve up a cow's hoof, I'm an expert now.
Okay, so my question is that corporations and larger companies don't operate like that. They don't operate where you work for 3 weeks straight and then you just get to go and check out for a week. That week, there's meetings, there's collaboration that needs to happen, there's decisions that need to be made. And this is classically the founder CEO paradox, right? The founder is somebody that goes in and builds and is manic and kind of does their own thing. And suddenly you're a CEO that has to lead, make decisions, and point the organization forward. How do you do that? That's a very hard thing to balance, because nobody's going to argue with you, Anthony, of when you're working 80 hours a week. It's when you're working 10 because you need that time to recover. That becomes the issue. Stephanie, how would you coach Anthony and I through that?
Well, it made me think when you were talking about this earlier about I designed and implemented a DevOps team model in a big public sector organization, right? And they so desperately wanted to function like a little small agile software development team, except there was like 300 of them, right? And they tried to mandate the work patterns to be flexible. And they tried to construct this working model that was supposed to get people into that kind of rhythm of, sprint rest. And it was so unnatural. And it actually resulted in people being more stressed out because they couldn't change the rest of the culture to accept that other people would work that way, right? And so in a founder-led organization, there's different roles, right? And as the founder, you are I think about it like being an architect, right? You are architecting the direction. You are architecting, and sometimes that means getting right in the weeds and trying something out and figuring it out, and then giving your team the direction to go and run with it. And so that might mean that you have these big sprints of work, but the big thing you have to just sort of be aware of is what kind of culture are you, what are you telling the rest of your team is acceptable? And a team will often emulate what the founder is doing. So if I'm out there burning myself out and working all hours all the time, my team sort of starts to feel like that's what they have to do too. So it's okay if that's how I want to work in these big, sprints and then take a couple of days off. But I have to be really clear with my team that my expectation is not that they're going to do that too, because that's not really good for my team at all. Like, it's not good for the company to have a bunch of people burned out. I just happen to know how to manage it for myself. But if my team feels like they have to do that, that's what happened back in the .com days. Everybody was trying to outdo each other in terms of how committed they are and how much they work. And it was just a shit show, right? So for your teams and your organization and how it needs to be able to work more flexibly. I can't even remember if that's what your question was, but
yeah,
I think it's the unnatural forcing of how we work. Like, everybody needs to work in whatever way works best for them, but we have to be really careful to ensure that we are not suggesting that the expectation is that everybody emulates what we do as founders, because we're over here and we can manage it. And we also have we have a different level of expectations for ourselves because of our role in the organization. But we have to balance that, right?
So I want to transition back to your point, Anthony, because there is this story, and I believe it's a story, but I think you can debate it. You and I can debate it, which is the most famous founders are ones that are in the weeds. Now, I think that that's unquestionably true. So we'll use Steve Jobs because Steve Jobs is the most iconic founder of our generation.
Jobs, Musk, Benioff, Bezos.
The point that I would make is that that's not entirely true. He was in the weeds on product because product is where his strength was. He was able to take accounting, and finance, and all these other functions because he had other people that he trusted in those roles.
That's fair.
He wanted to own product as part of that. And so I think that there is this idea that founders, like really successful founders, are in the weeds. But the reality is, I think something different, which is they're really good at delegating the stuff that are not their strengths or their desires to work on, right? And so you never
maybe delegate the things that don't move the needle.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, so like Apple was a product company and he decided he was a product visionary, but you never hear about what the accounting or HR structure was at that organization. He had to help make those decisions, but who was the CFO at that time? I don't even know. Right? Who was the person that was responsible?
Tim Cook was the operator.
Was the more operational focused person, right?
Yep.
Very, very disciplined operator. And so the point there is, if you are as a founder, and this is a little bit off the subject, but you as a founder, you can't be in the weeds of everything. How do you choose the thing that you really want to focus on? And obviously it's your strengths and what you like the most, but then how do you let go, delegate the other stuff? That's easier said than done. At least it was easier said than done for me. Stephanie, what do you think?
Well, weirdly, this comes back to knowing yourself, which we seem to always land back on. But knowing yourself and what the most beneficial thing you can do for the organization, and stay there, right? And even if that's not like sexy, if you are an operational person and you have like great operational skills and you know how to innovate from an operational perspective, do that. And let your strong people, build the rest of the organization. But as a visionary, you're kind of required in that regard to be pushing forward at the strategic level. But if you're going to get in the weeds, do it around something that you actually really know and enjoy and can add value. And there's a lot of founders that feel like either they need to have control over everything because they're so uncertain and worried and it's hard for them to manage uncertainty, or there's this weird founder story that if I'm not down in the weeds with everyone else, I'm like, I have an ego, or I am not contributing and everybody's going to hate me because I'm, that comes up a lot. Like the whole trend with all the open, like flat hierarchy and open office and all of that shit, where the founder was like, I have to look like I'm doing the work that everyone else is doing. Yet it's not about hierarchy. It's about really like working to what you're strong at and letting the rest of the organization take it. But like, I'm curious about bringing this back to like the broken systems concept. How do we know that we actually are functioning in this? Where's the echo coming from?
That was my watch. My Apple Watch just said that what the time was for some reason.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that you need your Apple Watch.
That's super helpful.
Because you can't lift your watch to look at it. It's just like, that's too much effort.
Wow.
But how do we know that
came out of left field?
How do we know that we actually can solve our burnout hard work problem with systems?
So Anthony, I'm going to ask a slightly different question to you, but it's the same thing. So undoubtedly, when you start a company, you're going to know the most about finance, accounting, legal, product, sales, etc. We have said consistently it's the founder's job to sell. They have to.
Yep.
Part of the deal, right? You have to go do that job.
Yep.
Problem is that you also are probably, at least for you who's done this a lot of times, better at finance, accounting, and all this other stuff than other people. And part of the thing that drives me nuts is when the systems that get built are wrong and then end up needing to be fixed. And it's like, well, if I just would have sat down and built it myself, it would have been right. And so how do you compartmentalize those job functions to say, okay, I've got to be able to focus on the things. So this goes back to the system component. If you're doing everything, you're not doing anything well. How do you compartmentalize and then say like, okay, look, maybe accounting's not fixed, but I can fix it.
You have to be in the weeds on the books. You just kind of have to be. But to Stephanie's point, systems. It's you need a person in finance once you can afford them really kind of quickly, so that they're keeping track of what's going in and out on a regular basis. So you're not doing the things like, opening the envelopes and paying the bills, like that stuff you should delegate, but not looking at your chart of accounts and your P&L is a mistake. So it's just about delegating the stuff that does not add value is probably the most important thing that I would, the most important takeaway from this episode is like figure out the things that are just taking your time, your non-strategic time, and delegate those things as quickly as possible. And then I naturally think in terms of systems. So how can I systematize certain things and make it easier to delegate? But that's, if you're not good at that, you got to find somebody that is and delegate that piece of it too. Like your job is to systematize the things that I do naturally. That's a fair hire. It's a great hire potentially.
So I want to ask one more question before we get into the speed round, which is we started this by saying, how do you think when you think about the...
That's Duke. You want to say hi to Duke?
When you start to think about this as the core question, is the system broken? Your busyness, you're burned out. How do you know that you working harder, there might be a systematic problem as opposed to just a workflow? How do you personally gauge your level of burnout, your level of stress? And Anthony, it's okay to say like, look, I just feel it. But if you're giving me advice, how should I pay attention to that? How should I start to focus on what are the ways that I should measure my own level of productivity in this curve? Anthony, starting with you.
Burnout is, for me, burnout is not making progress. That's when I start feeling burnout. It's the not making progress that causes the feeling, not the other way around. So there is value to force yourself to walk away, go take your shoes off, touch grass, put your phone away, don't look at any screen, and just allow the thoughts to flow. Just think about the problem. There's value to putting your phone down and taking a nap. So when you're feeling that burnout, when you're feeling it's because you're not making progress, you need to give yourself some space to let your brain work subconsciously, not consciously.
Interesting. Stephanie, you're on mute, but same question.
I don't think productivity is a measure that a founder needs to worry about in terms of their own work. To Anthony's point, what kind of progress are you making on the things that matter? And sometimes there are things that take up a lot of time, could be systematized, but actually going through the process is part of your thinking and is part of your like working out the next step. So I'm not advocating for doing a bunch of meaningless work, but like sometimes actually sitting down and writing something out is how I, solve a problem. And so could I do that through my LLM? For sure. But does it help me process? No, but again, I know myself, right? I know what I need and what I don't need, but I don't think measuring productivity is very useful for a founder. It's progress, right? It's like, are we getting to the goal?
Are we getting further away from it? I really feel burnout when I feel like I'm working my ass off and the goal is getting farther and farther away.
Yeah.
That's really where I feel burnout. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very conscious of this when every day of my week is like, I have to get things done as opposed to I'm working on moving something forward. You have both, but if there isn't any of the I'm moving something forward, I know I'm in one of these places that I shouldn't be in again, where I've taken on too many things that are just doing work and not strategic and not solving problems and not moving something forward. So being conscious of that, I just know, like, I can feel it when it's there.
There's so many different layers to this. So many good things you guys just said. Scheduling in a 15-minute walk. And then I really love the idea of productivity is not hours worked is not a metric you should be tracking. Where you're achieving towards your milestones is something that's good. All right, let's get to the speed round. I'm going to remind my co-hosts here, this is a speed round, meaning that you should answer 1 or 2 words to each question, not go off on the story of your childhood dog and things like that.
I have a dog in my childhood. Can we talk about that? I really wanted a dog. Actually, we did have a dog named Muffin, and it ate.
It's ironic that you are taking a long time to start the speed round, Chris.
Yeah, it is pretty ironic. 80-hour work week before an investor pitch. Is that heroics or design failure? And
normal. It's normal.
Stephanie.
When I was 6,
Science fair conversation.
Block recovery on the calendar first. Is that a must or is that a nice to have, Anthony?
Sorry, I missed the first part of that.
Block recovery time on your calendar. Is that a mandatory or is it just a nice to have?
I don't calendar it. You can't calendar when you're feeling it.
Okay, Stephanie.
I remember a time in my childhood where
Oh, jeez. It's gonna make this painful.
no, you can't. Like, I don't know how you do it. You have to make sure you take it, but when it gets taken, it has to be a reflection of when you need it.
I would disagree. Put a half on your calendar and go for a walk. It's a life-changing thing.
Oh, well,
Team mirrors your midnight slack. Fix the system or stop doing slacks at midnight. Anthony.
Neither.
I have a heart. I go to bed at 10.
It's fine. If somebody wants to slack at midnight, let them slack at midnight. But don't feel obligated to get back to them at midnight.
There you go. Stephanie.
Huh? I didn't hear what you said. I thought you were starting another. No, when I was 10,
it's the
last
professionalism.
speed round question. Your team and you're exhausted. You're trying to hit a ship date. Again, kind of funny back in the world of software, but you're trying to publish. You got this new ship feature you want to have shipped out. You're tired and exhausted. Do you let it slip 1 week to make sure it's sharper, or do you ship on time just to make sure you get it out the door? Anthony.
I'm always going to say ship as fast as you can.
Stephanie.
Ship.
I mean, there was this time when we were building our software that, look, how bad is the error? Is it going to cause you a whole bunch of, like, I can't answer it in one word question. No. Yes.
I think we're going to change the speed round to let's tell stories about our lives.
We'll call it the slow round.
The slow round, exactly. Our deep dive resources, Peak Performance by Brad Stuhlberg and Steve Magnus, and Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. Good conversation. We talked about vaginal breathing. We talked about the size of people's bushes.
You had to.
And then we talked about lots about productivity.
Why?
You know, Anthony, you were talking about going out and touching grass, and I was just envisioning.
No, don't go there. Don't go. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. Please be sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify channels. You are the pioneer of economic prosperity, and we are grateful for being there along the way with you. Thank you, everybody.
I hope you can hear Anthony blushing.
Good night. Goodbye. We're done.
It's almost as if you have no business training at all.